Guys, so here is an example. It's a bit more of a complicated example, but not really if you break it down. So think of the hips in the previous video lesson as the bouncing ball, like we said. So this is an animation which I did when I was a student at Animation Mentor. Now I'll focus on the hips a lot and I'll explain to you what I mean by it. It's like a pantomime exercise I have to do. But what I'll do, this lighting is not, all right. Now, what do I mean with the hips? So let's select the hips, right? And let's go to our favorite tool. Okay, now what you see now, it looks very complicated, but it's really the bouncing ball. That's all it is. So if you look at this, the arcs in the top left, right, they're moving everywhere. Now this was like 12 years ago, so I can already see I can polish a bit more, but like for example here, when the character comes up here, like here, so if we see, okay, I can't select that, but if we look, there's loads of places here where I could add another ones, like here. See, this is straight. So I could add a curve which is going more like an arc. So little things like that. But I just wanted to give you this example to show you, you could see where the points are, how the hips are working. It's all over the place, right? And then it comes up here. There's a Nike arc going up here. You know, this arc here, I wanted it to go down and then up and then come around. And then up here, you're holding the pose. So you can see the pose here being held, like all this. And if you select the hip controller, you can see right here, that's where the character is being held. You see how it's been held like a curve? And you can reduce that as much as you want or make it high as much as you want. So you've always got that little moving holes. So when we play it, you can see like the hip trajectory is going everywhere. Down, up, that's a good example. So if you like see at the end here, he's looking at the telescope and then he comes, this is a big arc here. So you can see point here, a point here. I could bring this down a bit more if I wanted to create more of an arc. And then when I get here, maybe I could move it forward a bit. But if I moved it forward, this leg was locking out. So that's why I didn't. But then I can always compensate for that by moving the leg. So I could get more smoother arc there. And you know, sometimes you can go in between this and create another to make it more smoother. See, like this. See, I was learning back then. So, but again, you can create smoother arcs. And then here you could bring it down a bit, out. You could bring that out a bit to create more arcs. And then it comes back down and then it goes back up here. I know it looks a bit complicated, but it's not really. It's just like you can see. The other thing I would say is 217. So if we go to 217, we look here, it's sticking out. So we can bring that in. Bring it in, it creates a cleaner arc. We can bring that in. The reason I didn't do it this way because my camera was fixed. So I made everything look perfect the way the camera was fixed. That's the one thing with 2D. You can just polish it exactly. Even though you should look at all the other angles as well, which is good practice. But if you've got a fixed camera, you just need to animate to that and make sure it's polished maximum to that view. Because that's all you're going to see. But in games, it's different. You have to do 3D. Because in a 3D world, you have to make sure the pose is working at all 3D angles. But that's how you use the motion trail. This is what the lesson is about, the motion trail. And we want to use that to track the dots, which are, like we said in the previous lesson, the bouncing ball. And some scenes can be like this, as complex, but what you do, you break it down into sections. First section, I want to plan the animation like this, the poses are going to be like this, the trajectory is going to be like this. Then you move into the next section. Section is at a time. Section at a time. And then you can go back and start polishing section at a time. You can do an overall pass. So this video lesson is more to do with just showing you a more complex movement, or I wouldn't even say complex. I would say more happening in a scene. And don't let it overwhelm you. Just work in little sections at a time. You block everything out. When you're blocking everything out, you're thinking about all these things. You're thinking about how is the hips moving generally first. Then what I did was I blocked this out generally. Then I refined it more and more, putting in breakdowns more and more in between. But this is an overall, just to let you know about the motion trail tool and how it's used and how it's so important when it comes to just tracking your arcs and breaking down your animation even more to get nice smoother arcs. Okay guys, I hope you enjoyed that, and I'll see you in the next lesson.